All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for attending this virtual author talk with Ann Aguirre. New York Times and USA Today bestselling author Ann Aguirre has been a clown, a clerk, a savior of stray kittens, and a voice actress, not necessarily in that order. She grew up in a yellow house across from a cornfield, but now lives in Mexico with her family. She writes all kinds of genre fiction, but she has an eternal soft spot for happily ever after, and we are very lucky to have her here with us this evening to discuss her books with the St. Mary's County Library. So, Anne, thank you so much for being willing to come and talk to us tonight about your wonderful writing.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to dive in. So we're specifically talking about the Fix-It Witches series today. If anybody has not read those yet, Emma's going to go ahead and put a link to those so you can go out and buy Anne's books, or if you want to check them out from the library, but can you talk a little bit about where you first got the idea for this series?
I am always afraid that people are going to be let down when they get the answer to this question, because to be really honest, I had been working with editor Krista Desir when she was a freelance editor. She edited a number of my books before she went to work for Sourcebooks. Then she became an acquiring editor at Sourcebooks, and we worked really well together. So she just directly asked me, do you want to write some books about witches for me for Sourcebooks? And I said, yes, I would love to. And I brainstormed with Krista. We decided we wanted to do a Midwestern town setting because I was born in the Midwest. And we wanted to do that small town Midwestern feel, but add some paranormal spice and make it really sweet and really cozy, but also a little bit steamy. So basically it all just came from wanting to keep working with my editor, and she wanted me to write witch romances, and it sounded fun, so I did.
I think that's amazing. I don't think just anyone could say, of course I'll write this series and then be able to do it. So I don't know. I think that's more impressive than anything else. Did you always know that there would be a time jump in this book versus book 3?
Yeah, there had to be a time jump. Without getting into any of the major world spoilers, there's a pretty pivotal and world-changing event in book 3, Extra Witchy. And like many of my romance series, while there is a self-contained romance in each book, there is also an overarching world plot where big sea changes are happening socially on the paranormal front. So people who want everything to be wrapped up, even the world stuff, are going to need to be a little patient, because it cannot happen quickly in book 1. Like, certain seeds are planted in book 1, and then more events advance the world plot in book 2, and then it all comes to fruition in book 3. So when you get to the only purple house in town, there has to be a time skip to allow for adjustments and adaptations to the new environment, I'll say. I think I can say that much without giving away massive spoilers, but I think the story is deep enough and fun enough that it's better if readers discover what exactly happens. And like, I do think that it resolves some of the quibbles that people had with book 1 if they read along to book 3, because everything is resolved. It's just not resolved on a world level in the first title. But things have changed very much in the only purple house in town, definitely for the better, I would say.
Yes, yeah. And I think if readers pick the newest book up, you absolutely could read it on its own, but I would highly recommend going back and reading. The whole series is delightful, and it is really fun to see. It's really fun to see how you planted seeds that are coming to fruition in book 4. There's some pretty impressive planning that went into that.
Yeah, and that is something that I very much enjoy, like watching the plot threads weave together and if I can pull it off successfully and have a reader go, wow, that's really cool. I didn't see that coming, but I really enjoy the way she executed that. But you are absolutely correct. I do have a number of readers who didn't realize that it was a spinoff.
Oh.
And so they read Purple House first. And they do say, yes, there are some appearances from characters in other books, but I never felt like that I was missing key details. I was able to read and enjoy Purple House on its own. So she did a good job making it stand alone, despite the fact that it's a spinoff. But to those who read Purple House first, I would still say there's no reason, if you like the world, that you can't go back and read the first three to get the full perspective on the town and the citizens and the people who live there and the recurring characters, and to understand how exactly the world developed to the state that it's in Purple House.
Absolutely. And just as a fun thing, the first two books take place almost simultaneously, and it's really fun to see how the one story develops and then knowing what you know about the first book to read book two. So I do recommend reading them in order if you can. If you don't, they're still going to be fun books, but it is very fun to see how Anne has built the world. So it was really fun to read a story set in the same town, but outside of the coven that we got to know in the first three books. How did you decide to leave that original group of women and have an outside character become the main focus?
We wanted to widen the world, and I had told all the stories from that particular coven that I intended to, so we needed to expand the scope and bring in more potential characters. There is a chance that I could write more Purple House, but like, to be really candid, it depends on how well the book does. If readers embrace it and it does well, then source books will want more set in this world, but we won't know until the book comes out and how readers are responding to it. That's just the uncertainty of life as a writer.
Sure.
I do have some pretty fun ideas for follow-ups. I can't tell you any of them without being massive spoilers for the book, so I won't go into it, but I do have multiple ideas for books that could be follow-ups. But
you know which couples you would be interested in telling the stories of next if you got the opportunity?
Yeah, I do have it worked out.
I really want to know, but I understand, no spoiler.
Well, one thing that I would tell you is a massive spoiler, so I won't mention that, but there is something I could tell you that really isn't a huge spoiler. It's in the blurb that Iris has sisters, I think, that she's the messy one in her family. It is possible that one of her sisters could get her own book at some point. The nice one, Olive.
Yes, I was hoping it would be her.
But I don't think that's a massive spoiler.
Yeah.
The other idea is a massive spoiler, so I won't go into that.
Okay.
And Rowan is a character in the book, and just knowing they exist isn't a spoiler. It's possible that if the series took off and did really well, that I would tell Rowan's story at some point once they're a little older. Right now, they're a little young and they're prone to get crushed on everyone. But when they're a little older, I could conceivably tell their story as well.
Rowan was one of my favorite characters. I would love to see where they get to go. Would you ever go back and do any of the other coven members, or do you think, are their stories done?
Their stories are pretty much done because Carrie and Priya are already together. Ethel is not monogamous, but there is some more information on Ethel in The Only Purple House in Town.
Yes.
I can say that without spoilers. We covered Leanne and Clementine, and Margie. I mean, I was on the fence about that one, but my editor thought that an older, divorced and traumatized heroine was a little heavy. for the series. So Margie probably wouldn't go forward.
Mhm.
And candidly, Vanessa is a heroine of color, so I don't really think it's my place to write in her point of view. I would be worried tremendously about getting it right.
Mhm.
So that was why I put in some information about her career, and readers can assume she's wildly successful and that she does fall in love with someone wonderful, but I will probably never write that story.
Fair. So, whose story has been the most fun to tell so far, and which story has been the hardest to get on page?
The hardest one to write was absolutely book 2, because there were so many details that I had to get absolutely perfect time-wise. And the chronology is really not my strong point. Like some writers, like they have everything tracked, they have a timeline, they know it's been 2 days since this happened and 1 day since that happened, and then there was a time lapse of a week. I never know. I am just like, I just write and freestyle it, and a couple days or whatever, and then someone else has to make sense of how long it's actually been. So writing, as you mentioned, like a story that sort of overlaps a little bit, it required a lot of precision, which is not my strong point. So it was really difficult to get Clem's story right. And it was also complicated by the fact that I didn't know I was going to get to write Leanne's story until the last minute.
Oh,
But the books did well enough that they gave me the chance to tell Leanne and Trevor's story. And I feel like not everyone who read Witch Please has read the other two. They should definitely finish, because it tells a complete story. And I'm actually really proud of Leanne and Trevor's story, because they are the type of characters that don't normally get to be protagonists in romance novels. Like, he is very soft and has a lot of mental health issues and has mild trauma from a toxic family situation. And he is the kind that would be written off as a sidekick or a loser or someone who doesn't deserve to get himself together or have love. And Leanne, because she's kind of coded as a man eater, she's been divorced twice. She's very confident in her sexuality. She's the type that in the wrong hands would turn into like an evil ex, or I don't want to use any pejorative language, but I think the type of character that she would have ended up in the wrong hands, I'll say. And the fact that I got to tell their story makes me really proud, because everyone deserves love. You don't have to be physically perfect or totally have everything together in your life. And that's the kind of representation I want to put into my books. I want to write about people who are messy and imperfect, and they're basically human projects, not for other people to fix, but for them to feel better about themselves and to realize that they don't have to do anything in particular. They don't have to change. They don't have to lose weight. They don't have to suddenly not have anxiety in order to be worthy of love and care. And I really wish everyone would read about Leanne and Trev, because I'm just really proud of that book. And unlike Clem's book, I'm getting to the answering your question.
you're fine.
Leanne and Trev was actually so easy for me to write. Like, their story just flowed. They were so happy. I know it's weird for me to talk about them like they're real. They were so happy that they got to tell their story, because they didn't think it would happen, and I didn't think it would happen, and then it did. And I just want more people to read it, because that will tell the publisher, yes, this is the kind of thing we want to see. This is the representation we need. It doesn't have to be about perfect people. Broken people, people who are works in progress, they also deserve to be loved and to be cherished.
I feel like I can admit Expert Witchy was my favorite. I may have teared up more than once reading their story. It was just so lovely. So everyone go read it. You just go do it. Just believe me because you can trust me. Um, so just changing gears a little bit, do you mind talking a little bit about the process of getting your first book published and how you became a writer full time?
No, not at all. Basically, I've pretty much always been a writer. I just was not published until I was in my 30s. Um, I had an agent before, but we didn't sell. And then I wrote a book that I felt really passionate about, but she didn't represent science fiction. So we parted ways and I started the long, grueling process over again. I queried and I got an offer from an agent who had never repped sci-fi before, but she loved the book so much that she learned the market and pitched it, and we sold it within a month, which is really fast.
Amazing.
And then after that, from 2007 on, I've written over 50 novels since then in various genres. I've written fantasy, science fiction, thrillers, but my real home is romance. I just love the softness and the sweetness and the character development and the spicy bits and the happy ending. That's just a personal preference.
Yeah. What was that first book that you got published? The one that she.
It was called Grimspace.
Okay, Grimspace, yes.
It was a science fiction space opera, and it ran to a 6-book series before it was done.
Can you talk a little bit about your writing process? I know you said with this series, your editor sort of asked if you could approach it. With other ones, where do you get your first idea and how do you have a method you follow to get it on page?
I tend to be a very impulsive writer, which actually is probably not the best for my brand. But if I don't write what I feel like writing, I can't finish it. So basically, whatever is in my head at the time, that's what I work on. And from my genre hopping, I mean, I've written young adult, thrillers, romances, science fiction, fantasy. Sometimes it comes from a snippet of dialogue that I overheard and I want to flesh that out. Sometimes it comes from a dream. Sometimes it comes from childhood trauma. I'll just use this as a for example. My dystopian young adult series, the Razorland series, which is about mutants and the world being destroyed and people being very scarce, etc. That actually came from a childhood fear that I got from growing up in the 80s when I was a little kid. And you probably don't remember this because you're too young, but when I was in elementary school, we actually had nuclear drills. Not fire drills, but nuclear drills. And they would make us get under our desks. And that was so terrifying, but also pointless, because if our tiny little school in the middle of Indiana was going to be nuked, which is super improbable, by the way, not a high value target, our little metal and wooden desks would not have saved us. So we were just traumatized for completely no reason. But they just constantly had us fearing that we might be obliterated at any moment. And that paired with my really deep interest in zombie movies, kind of coalesced. And I was working through some things when I wrote the Razorland series. So that it just really varies. There can be a lot of different inspirations. Another series of mine that was really successful is my Galactic Love series, where it's science fiction romance and the love interests are all tremendously alien. No normal bodies or human parts, let's say. That actually came from a writing prompt.
Really?
The Rift Bodice sent a writing prompt and asked me to partake in a little promo they were running to write a short. And I wrote like 3,000 words based on the writing prompt. And it was so much fun that I just kept going because I love these characters. They're hilarious. They're making me smile. And I just decided to put every weird thing that I love, like a talking dog and like the Hunger Games meets the Bachelorette, like every weird thing that I could think of that I knew would never fly in traditional publishing. I was like, I'm just going to stuff it all in this book. Everything that makes me smile, I will write this to entertain myself. And I sent the chapters over the course of a year. I sent 2 chapters a month to my newsletter subscribers. And at the end of the year, I had a book and I polished it up and edited it and I put it out. And it is the most popular thing I have ever written. And it's still going on word of mouth. They love my cinnamon roll, hard-shelled chitinous alien, and the talking dog and the choosing with the weird mating games. And it's the wildest thing. And I indulged my imagination completely. But it also taught me that that is actually what's best, because I've had the least success and happiness in writing when I try to chase trends, or dragons are popular, so I should try to write dragons. Like if I try to do what other people are doing, it just doesn't work out for me. But if I just am like, shrug my shoulders, well, I am going to write the weirdest thing that makes me happy. And then other readers are like, yes, I was looking for something just like this. Thank you for doing this.
I'm so glad you did. I know I keep saying this, but just go read Ann's books. If you have not read Strangelove, it is the biggest, warmest hug of a somehow sexy, steamy book about an alien that looks like a bug. I don't know how you made it work, but it totally does. Adorable. What do you do when you hit a writing wall and you don't know what to do next?
It depends on how much I am loving the project. If it's something that I was writing, like I said, because I thought it would be popular or I thought it might hit a trend, honestly, I normally just wander away from it and just let it be for years, and I just don't worry about it because the passion wasn't there. But if it's something that I'm really excited about and I'm desperate to finish it, I will either just take a break or take a shower or take a walk or talk to someone else. Like I'll just, like, to be really honest, my son is 23 and he is a genius. And I don't say that as a proud mother. I say that based on actual assessment testing. His IQ has been tested at over 130, which I believe is
yeah, that's up there.
So honestly, I just described the problem to my son, and he is such a book fixer. Like, I want to say Renegade Love, the 3rd book, I was having a problem with them surviving the heist at the end. And I was like, okay, here's the situation. We have our ragtag group of misfits, and they're going up against this evil space corporation, and they're going to be completely surrounded. Yes, one of them is a killing machine, but like, what about the rest of the squad? How does it make sense that they could actually do this and pull it off and nobody dies? Because I really didn't want to kill off any of the squad because it's a romance. Right. If it was another genre, I might have upped the body count if it was straight science fiction. But in romance, I don't want to bum everyone out by killing half the squad.
We appreciate that.
So I was like, I need a reason. Like, how does this work? And he listened to the scenario, and within a minute, he came up with the most genius solution that made it totally plausible. I don't know if you've read Renegade Love.
That one yet. Okay. Yeah.
You should read it, and then we'll discuss, because I would like to tell you what his suggestion was, but you'll just have to trust me that it was amazing and it totally worked. It fixed all my problems and it added another fun character to the story.
That's amazing.
So I used to struggle more, but now I just pick my son's brain.
That's
I
great.
just tell him what the situation is, where I'm stuck, why I'm stuck. And I can say that he has probably a 99%, oh, this is what you should do. And I'm like, you are so smart. You are just wonderful. I did such a good job with you.
That's the best. So you mentioned, sorry, other genres. Are there romantic subgenres that you have not touched yet that you would like to try, or other entire genres that you eventually want to go into?
I would love to write an epic romantic fantasy or epic fantasy romance. Like I'm really not particular on the division, but the thing is, like, I love big, juicy, epic fantasies, but they never have enough banging, ever. And if it is, it's really awkward or strange or kind of inappropriate. Like, dude, she's 14. Why are you looking at her that way? She's 14, and no, it's not okay. So I would like to write, a very sexy, very epic, swashbuckling, full of consent, fantasy romance or romantic fantasy. I would love to do that.
Yes,
And in
please.
fact, I do have one that I am currently writing, but I'm only 4 chapters in.
Okay.
So that's going to be a long haul, but it is almost 20,000 words, even though it's only 4 chapters. So yeah.
All right, we'll have to wait for that, but that sounds lovely. Do you have a favorite trope that you like to incorporate, or any that you prefer not to touch with a 10-foot pole?
I do have a number of them that I love. I mean, I kind of love something that's a little forbidden, not like gross forbidden, but like, let's say older brother's best friend, or I could also go the opposite way, like best friend's younger sibling, like that kind of forbidden.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if I should admit this, but I also kind of like what Katie Robert did with Your Dad Will Do, when she was dating the son and he turned out to be a dingus. And so she went for the dad, and I was like, I should not like this, but I kind of like it.
Katie Robert knows how to take a trope that you shouldn't like and make you go, but
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
So I do like the forbidden stuff, but not like gross forbidden.
Yeah.
I've read a few stepbrother romances, but generally they don't work for me. The only ones that I have read that did work for me, it was like they had met and were already dating, and then they found out their parents were getting married. In that case,
different.
Like,
yeah.
It is forbidden, but it's not gross because you didn't grow up with him. Like,
right.
You knew him since you were, I don't know, 7, and you've been living together as siblings. I find that a little bit gross.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say other people are not allowed to enjoy it. Right. So I like a touch of forbidden tropes. I love Grumpy Sunshine. That's probably my ultimate favorite. Where this person is just such a curmudgeon and they hate everyone, and then they just have this soft spot for this little chaos ball. And like, they will be mean to everyone else in the world, but then this other person is like on a pedestal almost. I just find those stories so charming. And then I guess my other favorite, I have a lot of favorites, is Morality Chain. That, in case you're not familiar with the verbiage, Morality Chain is when one character basically would murder the whole world, but they don't, because of this one person who tells them, hey, maybe don't murder the whole world. And they're like, okay, for you, only for you, I will spare these
idiots. Yes.
Renegade Love is a morality chain.
Okay, that's definitely going on my next to read list.
Um, one that I will not touch is very easy as well. I don't like reunion and second chance stories. This is just a personal preference, but if I left someone, if I broke up with them, it was because I was completely done. And I have no desire to revisit. I am not someone who lives looking in the rearview mirror. I don't have regrets. If I have walked away from a person or a situation, I am done with them. It is over. So, and I also don't really have a ton of faith in the idea that people become fundamentally completely different individuals. So like even if you say you had chemistry 15 years ago, you still have chemistry. I tend to believe that many of the same problems, even if smaller changes happened over time, many of the same problems will recur. Um, I had an uncle that married the same woman 3 times, and it did not work out any of the times. He also married many other women. My uncle was really good at two things: selling cars and getting divorced. Um, God rest his soul. So, I mean, I admire people that can pull it off and make me believe it. But even when I read a blurb and I read that it's like a second chance or reunion story, I always side eye it a little bit. And there have been a few that they convinced me that it was not the people, it was like the timing was really wrong, or a tragic event separated them, like the loss of a child, and they just couldn't cling to each other or something. There have been a few where they persuaded me that, yeah, it's going to work this time, but that is a really hard sell for me.
It is, yeah.
I generally don't buy it. Like if it didn't work the first time, your chances of making it work the second time are just, they're slimmer, realistically.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to Fix It Witches a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about creating you already talked about the timeline and getting all of those details right, but also making a believable fantasy world within a very normal setting. I really liked how you were able to make the magic of the coven and in the Purple House magic really work in the world, but also make the mundane world feel very much like you would find for a small Midwestern town. How did you work those two worlds together?
Well, first of all, I would say that the type of magic that is being performed in the Fix It Witches series is what I call low magic. That means it's more like garden witchery, herb craft, scrying, making charms and enchantments, illusions, really high magic stuff like fireballs or levitating a castle. Like that type of stuff is not going to be found because witchcraft just doesn't work that way. It's more almost like sympathetic magic. And there's like a ritual element and there's a spell component element. And each witch has a primary attunement and a secondary attunement. And what that means basically is that there's 6 types of magic, and they're really good at one and a little bit good at another one. It's also conjunctive in that many witches working on a spell together can combine their energy and achieve something much greater than one witch can on their own. I was trying to avoid the emergence of like super powerful villainous people who could enspell an entire town on their own, that kind of thing. So I was just working with that as my context. And then I thought about the types of things that could be achieved. Like with vivimancy, that's having power to affect living creatures. Like you could effectively breed a new plant, let's say, by putting 2 plants in the same pot and then casting a spell, and you could make, say, a hybrid of a squash and a pumpkin, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Or talk to animals, which I think is adorable.
Super adorable.
I was looking at small, more like small magic,
Yeah.
and that is easier to incorporate into a contemporary setting. And I was pretty pleased with the way it all worked out.
Absolutely. Well, that makes sense. So if one of the channels or streaming centers called and said, hey, we want to turn Fix-It Witches into a show or a movie, do you have people in mind that you'd be like, yes, that's who should play Clem, that's who should be Leanne?
You know, I really don't. And like, if I'm really honest, it's because I don't watch that much American TV.
Fair.
I watch more international programs. So I am actually not even familiar with who is on streaming services these days. I have subscriptions to multiple Korean drama sites, and I watch Korean dramas, I watch Chinese dramas, I watch Mexican telenovelas. I don't really know what's on American streaming
Sure.
these days, and I don't know who the popular actors are to name. I think I would trust the casting professionals. I would hope that they might like talk with me, and I would probably be happy to provide stock photos. Like, she looks similar to how I envision, but like, honestly, if they found the perfect actress or actor and they did not fit the description whatsoever, I would be like, go for it. The portrayal is more important. And then people would probably yell at me over that for like not making them whatever they were in the book. But I think acting talent and skill at portrayal is more important than a random physical description.
I like that. They'll trust you to write the characters and you can trust them to do their work to make the show. Yeah. So speaking of how the characters look to a degree, do you get any input on the beautiful covers that you have for the series?
Yes, definitely.
Awesome.
They do multiple concepts at source books. Like, they usually send me like 6 different ones,
wow,
which is not typical at all. I have been with publishers who just send me one thing and say, here it is, and they did not ask my thoughts at any point in the process. And even if I was mildly horrified by the result and I was whispering to my agent, is there anything we can do about this cover, because this is really bad and it does not even remotely set expectations for what's in the book. And usually I would say in 3 out of 5 cases, there was not anything I could do. I was just, well, this is my cover and here it is.
Oh.
But that is not the case with source books. They will prepare like 6 different concepts. I get to pick my 2 favorites, and then they usually will do a poll and allow, I don't know where they find the people that they ask, but they will do a popular poll on which one of my favorites polls the best with prospective buyers, and then we go with that one. But it's always something that I have liked. Like, they never pick a concept that I'm like, no.
Please don't do that.
So it's always the 2 that I have picked myself, and then we go with what the public thinks is the best. And in all cases, I'm not trying to brag, but my favorite has always been chosen.
That's great.
So I would like to say that I have pretty good taste in covers.
Yes.
All of them that I have from source books are gorgeous. The Fix-It Witches, no complaints, only praise for the art department. They're beautiful, beautiful books.
They absolutely are. They're some of the cutest covers that I've seen on contemporary romance. Let's see, what else I'm going to... Oh, so are there any behind the scenes stories that you can share about why a character became a certain way on the page or why a scene is in the book?
In terms of the Fix-It witches or just in general?
We can either or.
Well, I put the talking dog in
Yes.
Strange Love, mainly because I thought it would be hilarious, but it's also kind of an upending of traditional abducted by alien forced mate romances, which is a kind of a popular subgenre. But like, they never take the dog, and if they do, like, nothing is ever done with it. Like, I don't know, I don't like saying it never happens, because maybe there are other stories and I've just not read them where the dog also gets abducted. But I have never also seen one where they did anything much with the dog character. And I was like, if the alien has never seen a human or any Earth beings, why would he assume that one was inherently superior? So to me, it just made logical sense that the dog would also get the communicator implant. And because as far as he knows, they're just different
Species.
Yes, they're just different beings who both reside on this planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, for a while, and I don't think this is a massive spoiler, I just think it's funny. For a while, because Beryl is so protective of Snaps, Zylar thinks that Snaps must be her boss or her superior in some way because of the way she serves him tirelessly and is constantly fretting about his well-being. And I also just really had fun with that. So the whole reason Snaps became a character and he got dialogue was just because I thought it would be fun. And I had a blast with him writing the way I thought a dog would actually speak if he was given the power to. But I wanted to be careful not to make him too articulate or too uncannily wise. But I think he does have some of the best lines in the book. People have highlighted on Kindle so many of his lines.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like the talking green, tiny green dirt dogs.
His tiny dirt dog children. They're the best. Sorry, again, just go read Strangelove. Go fall in love with Snaps. What is the last romance that you read and just want to tell everyone to go read?
I just posted on my Instagram the top 5 books that I've been reading, and I can invite everyone to go have a look at my Insta. It's my name is at Ann_Aguirre_author. And the books that I recommended were The Shuddering City by Sharon Shin. It's not a romance, it's a fantasy. The romance on that list is The Girl with Stars in Her Eyes by, is it Shio Axelrod? It's X-I-O. I am not 100% sure that I said her name correctly. That was a romance that I really enjoyed. Another one that I really enjoyed is Wings, Once Cursed and Bound by Piper J. Drake. The other 2 recs on there, I don't believe were romance, but do go take a look at the post that I put up today, because all 5 books on the list are worth reading. The other one was a cozy mystery. It's called Secrets, Lies, and Crawfish Pies. Super cute, set in East Texas, very down home and charming. Let's see, that's 4.
Let's see, there's The Shuddering City. My screen is too small. Oh, Secrets, Lies, and Crawfish Pies, Girls with Stars in Their Eyes, Small Town Big Magic.
That's the other one that I was forgetting.
Yeah.
Small Town Big Magic by Hazel Beck. That one I really enjoyed. It is a romance, and it kind of reminded me of the Fix-It Witches, only I didn't have to write it, so that was kind of enjoyable.
Excellent.
So if you're looking for more of the same vibe, you can check out Small Town Big Magic.
Oh, I always love it when authors can say, "You've run out of my books. fine, go read these and then come back and you can get more of mine. Um, let's see. So what is the role or work of a Ann Aguirre hero to dismantle the patriarchy?
What is the role?
What is the work that they do to dismantle the patriarchy?
I don't know that I ever think about it in those terms.
Sure.
But I don't write protagonists that disrespect other people. Consent is important, communication is important, autonomy is important. I don't like big misunderstandings as plot points. I honestly, I know that each romance, according to the pacing, is supposed to have a breakup or a huge point of conflict. But like, I don't honestly even want to write that sometimes. So sometimes I will do external conflict instead, where they don't actually break up, but there's a problem that has to be resolved before they can get their happily ever after. The books that frustrate me the most is where the entire story would unravel if they just talk to each other. Yeah. Like, you know, he gets a text and she reads it and misconstrues it, and then she has trust issues, let's say, and instead of having a convo about it, she just bails and starts ghosting him and will not discuss anything with him. And it turns out it was a joking message from his cousin, let's say. And all of this could have been avoided if she just would have been like, you know, I wasn't snooping, but I just saw someone call you sugar buns on your phone. I am a little unsettled. Can we discuss?
Can we talk about it?
And he's like, yeah, that's my cousin. She likes to mess with me. That's a nickname because insert ridiculous childhood story or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
If the entire plot could be unraveled if they just had a grown-up conversation, I am probably going to be frustrated.
Yes, I agree. What was your first introduction to romance, and is it still a book that you could or would recommend today?
Like, to be really honest, probably not.
Sure.
And the reason is because my very Southern Baptist church-going aunties, God rest their souls, they were my great aunties. So they have been passed on for a long, long time. But they were not always good, God-fearing women because they kept boxes of Harlequins under their bed in secret. They were three spinster great aunties who never married, sisters who lived together until they passed on. They were my paternal grandparents' sisters. There were three of them, never married, lived in the same house in Kentucky until they all passed away one by one. But when I was about 8, I guess, I was visiting them and they were watching me because someone was sick at the hospital and I was too small to be there. Well, they didn't have any toys because spinster aunties, and I was rummaging as 8-year-olds do, and I found their box of Harlequins under the bed.
No.
They were old Harlequins from like the 60s. So they were not really graphic, but they did have kissing. And they had some scenes that were kind of baffling to me because it was like allegorical, like, you know, passion inflamed him and it swept him under like a wave. And she clung to him like a limpet on a rock in a stormy ocean. And I was like, what exactly is happening here? Because I was a really good reader for 8. I didn't have problems with the vocabulary, but like grown up me is now like, yeah, they were totally doing it. But when I was reading it, I was like, I have no idea. Why are they suddenly in the ocean? And she's on a rock or what? I don't understand what's happening. But yeah, there were a lot of punishing kisses. A lot of women being dragged around and being told that they didn't have choices. And you will, like, what are you going to do? Get a job? You have to marry me. I'm wealthy. And there was also some kind of alarming stuff. Like she would be a fresh-faced 19 and he was 37, a man of the world. And I was like, and like when I was 8, I was just like, oh, this is cool. This is set in Australia. I've never read a book that was set in Australia. So like I read so many Contraband Harlequin Presents that summer when I would sneak over to my great auntie's house and raid their secret Harlequin stash. And I think that was when I imprinted on romance, like this is my genre, this is fun, this is amazing. And then later, after I went home, my mom would take me to the flea market and there were book stalls that had used romance novels. And I want to say they were like, I don't know, 10 cents a piece or 20 for $1. And so I would take my allowance and go to the used romance book stall and come home with just a huge sack. And it was pretty great.
That sounds amazing. Is there a, other than your books, of course, because again, we've already said, go read Ann's books. Is there a romance you would recommend to maybe a new reader if they were approaching the genre for the first time?
Oh, wow. That's tough because you only have one chance to make a first impression.
How about one contemporary, one paranormal, and one historical?
Well, probably my favorite historical of all time is Flowers from the Storm
Okay.
by Catherine. I can't believe I'm blanking on her name.
Is it Laura Kinsale?
Yes, Laura
Okay.
Kinsale, yes. Sorry, it's not. I was thinking of someone else.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, Flowers from the Storm by Laura Kinsale. I love that one. But I don't know if it's the right entry point. So a more popular one that I also love is Dreaming of You by Lisa Kleypas.
Sure.
Derek Craven.
Yes.
So for if you want something that's more divisive, try Flowers from the Storm by Laura Kinsale. She has a number of titles that I have loved. There's one that has a shipwreck in it.
Gotta love a shipwreck. I don't know why. You should.
In terms of contemporary, I actually think that they should start with Farah Roshan.
Oh yeah, that's a great recommendation.
And pretty much any of her contemporaries would be a good choice. But in particular, I like the fake dating one she did. Can you help me out with the title?
Oh, let's see. I am Googling because I'm actually quite terrible with
I would have to minimize the screen in order to grab the title.
Okay, so there's the Boyfriend Project series.
I think that's it.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna put the series into the chat.
Yes. I think that would be a great place to start because her books are really fun and I think everyone would enjoy them very much. And then what was the other paranormal?
Paranormal, yeah, it would be.
Well, the only thing I can say is Nalini Singh.
Oh, yes.
I think Slave to Sensation is the first in her Changeling series. If you want like just the seminal work of paranormal romance, the series has been ongoing for so long. Definitely start with Nalini Singh and just work your way through if you love it. She also has other paranormals if you love them. I'll also say that I think my paranormals are kind of underrated. So
go read those.
If you want to start with something I've written, I can also recommend The Leopard King as an awesome paranormal romance that more people should read.
I don't think I knew about that one. Oh, yeah, let's put that in the chat. Thank you. That's great. And I'm going to ask you one more question before I open it up to our other listeners. I always love to ask if you have a book that recently made you join the Bad Decision Book Club, which is my dear friend's way of describing the book that kept you up all night, even though you knew you would regret it in the morning, but you just could not stop reading.
Yes, actually, there have been a ton of them, and I honestly blame T. Kingfisher. I started reading a bunch of books by Ursula, and every single one of them kept me up long past what was reasonable, like sometimes to the point of daylight, because I had to finish it. And I honestly have not read anything by T. Kingfisher that I was like, wow, I'm not feeling this. I am just amazed at the writing skill and the characterization and the amount of fun in all of the books that I have read. So pretty much everything. I would have to get into my Kindle because there's a lot of them. I went on a binge and read like, I don't know, 10 or 12 titles a while back, and they all kept me up late.
I could not agree more. I have been inhaling her books actually this past month, and I cannot stop.
Yep.
All right.
They're so addictive.
Do you have a favorite of hers?
I really loved the Wizard's Guide to Magical Baking.
Yes, Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking.
Yes, that's
great.
That one is just ridiculously charming. How did she come up with a bread wizard? How? I was just like, this is sparkles.
Amazing.
But like, I could go through my Kindle list and just read titles because there are so many, and I loved all of them.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me ask you all of those questions. And I am going to I'm going to see what we have in the question and answers. We have a few here. Okay, somebody did ask the inspiration for the series earlier, and we did answer that. So that one, we're good. Oh, somebody said they would love to see more of Henry Dale. So they really hope we get to see more of Henry if you continue the series, which Henry is so lovely and curmudgeon-y in the best way. Is there a chance we could see more Henry down the road?
Yeah, there is a chance. If I get to write Olive's story, then yes, there would definitely be more Henry Dale. I mean, I'm probably not going to write a septuagenarian romance, and also
Sure.
This is a mild spoiler, but Henry is ace, so like he's not looking for a romantic interest. He's just looking for pals and people to make him feel useful and wanted and needed. Which he does, don't worry. That's also not a huge spoiler.
No, in the best way. He's so lovely. Okay, so those are done. See if anybody else has questions, you're welcome to put in. But I have kept you for over an hour, Anne. Thank you so much for just having so many lovely things to say about your books and for writing your beautiful books and sharing them with us.
If there are other questions that went unanswered, I am happy to stay and answer them. It's not a problem at all.
Yeah. Okay, sometimes people there, we'll give them a chance, and if not, yeah. But at everyone's day, I think they might have just been excited to hear you talk and hear about your books. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you would want to make sure readers know about your stories?
If you haven't read Fix It Witches, or you haven't read The Only Purple House in Town, now is a great time to start the series because the spinoff book Purple House is coming out in July. And if you would like more books in this world, the only way to tell the publisher that is to buy them or to ask your library to order them if they're not already on the shelves. This is really out of my control, though. It's in the hands of readers. So if you have it in your budget to pre-order Purple House, that would help me a lot. Purple House has actually got a special pre-order going on with Meet Cute Bookshop in San Diego. You can order online through them. If you do a pre-order through them, you will receive 6 special exclusively commissioned character cards, which has anime style art of the 6 main characters. And then it has secret character details on the back. So it's kind of like a baseball trading card, but with information about the characters. There will be a special magnet, which is shaped like the Purple House that goes on your fridge. And you'll also get a signed book plate. And that is, of course, in addition to your print copy, which will be sent to you on release day. So if you would like to pre-order, that would be doing me a great service.
I'm going to put the link to, I thought on your Instagram, the link that you shared. Yeah. So I'm going to put that in the chat. So, and I do, everyone.
If you do my Instagram, there is a graphic that I posted recently that shows you a sample of the magnet, of the book plate, and the front of the character cards. It's really, really a cute package, and it's definitely worth special ordering through Meet Cute. The swag won't be available anywhere else. I won't be giving it out at cons, so only the people that pre-order from Meet Cute will have all of this cool stuff as bragging rights.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for taking your time this afternoon and evening to share with us about your work. It has been such a pleasure to get to talk to you about this. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. And sure you want to.